Today, we're headed to Lenawee County, Michigan, where the competency of mom and dad is being questioned. The child has already been removed from their custody. And there's some concern about even letting them have supervised visits. Let's go to court.
2-1. All right, we are on the record today because there was a petition for emergency removal filed yesterday. After hours, I did review that, sign that, and authorize the department to remove the child, in this case, a newborn infant, and place the child into foster care given the content of the petition. Today, we've come together to conduct a preliminary hearing that is required to follow that within 24 hours. The attorneys have appeared and had the opportunity to meet with each of their clients, which are the parents, respondent parents in this case, ahead of today's preliminary hearing, which I appreciate. I've received a jury demand as it relates to both parents. And I've been informed that they would like the opportunity to have the petition read aloud onto the record. So I think that covers what I've understood to be happening so far. I have the names of our participants, beginning with our guardian ad litem.
My apologies, Judge. I couldn't get unmuted there quickly enough. Underwood, legal guardian ad litem for the minor child.
Michael Brooks, I represent mother Jacqueline Lomas. Jacqueline?
Hello. Welcome.
Michael McFarland, representing father. Please tell the judge your name.
I am Dakota Harmon Duckworth. I am the father.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Nastasia Thomas, counsel for the department. Ms. Harvey.
Sarah Harvey for the department. Thank you. All right, Deputy Ames, would you swear in Dakota Harmon Duckworth and Jacqueline Lomas, please?
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, I have to ask each of you a number of questions. So that's why I've had you sworn. Is it true, Mr. Dakota Harmon Duckworth, that you wish to have a jury trial on this matter?
Yes.
You do have the right to a jury trial, both of you do. And during that, the department would have to prove the allegations by a preponderance of the evidence. You have the right to an attorney. You'll have an attorney at each hearing. Okay. And that attorney can help you and decide whether or not to call your own witnesses, to cross-examine witnesses brought by the department, and of course, to help you decide whether or not you want to testify yourselves.
I would like to testify myself.
Okay. Well, let me go through and I'll let you know when I'm ready to ask you a question. All right. So you have the right to have the petition read, which I am happy to do for you today. You also have the right to seek placement or return of your child to you, and the right to admit or deny the allegations in the petition and make a statement of explanation. Do either of you have any reason to believe that you have that you're members of a Native American tribe or band, or that you're eligible for membership, or that your child would be eligible for membership? Mr. Harmon Duckworth.
Not that I would know of. My dad was kind of dark skinned, but I don't know if he was Samoan or not. So.
Right, Ms. Lomas, are you a member of any Native American tribe or band, or
No.
know if you have eligibility for that?
No, I do not.
Okay, very good. I know that your child is very new, but are there any other cases out there that would concern your child, like a guardianship, for example?
No.
Okay.
No.
Is that okay? Very good. Okay. All right, well, and then at this time, I will go ahead and read the petition for you onto the record. So the first page, well, let me ask you this too. Dakota Harmon Duckworth, do you have a copy of the petition?
Right here.
Good. Ms. Jacqueline Lopez, do you have a copy?
She may not. We only grabbed one of them, I think.
I have to ask Ms. Jacqueline Lomas this question. Ms. Lomas, did you receive a copy of the petition?
I'm sorry. I don't. I think my lawyer grabbed one. Did I grab one?
No. I asked you if you had one.
Oh, I do not. I do not. Actually, I do not.
Wait a minute. I did ask her and she said, yes, she'd seen it and she'd read it.
Oh,
Yes,
I read it. I read it, but I did not grab it. I'm sorry.
Well, you don't have to have it with you right now. I just want to make sure you have a copy somewhere.
Yes, I have a copy somewhere.
Okay. All right. Very good. So what it says is it's a petition for child protection proceedings, specifically as it relates to Siamese Herman Duckworth. And I'm going to omit his personal identifying information. The next paragraph identifies the parents, Dakota Harmon Duckworth, a respondent parent, born 11/16/1999, residing on Winter Street in Adrian. The child is, again, I've identified him already, and the mother is identified as Jacqueline Lomas, also a respondent parent, also residing at the same address in Adrian, date of birth 1/29/2000. The second page indicates there are no pending or resolved cases within the jurisdiction of the Family Division of the Circuit Court involving the family or family members of the person subject to the petition. 4, the named child comes within the provisions of MCL 712A.2B 1 through 6 as follows. Specifically indicated are paragraphs 3 and 4. The parent or other person legally responsible for the care and maintenance of the child, when able to do so, has neglected or refused to provide proper or necessary support, education, medical, surgical, or other care necessary for the child's health or morals, or has subjected the child to a substantial risk of harm to his mental well-being, or has abandoned the child without proper custody or guardianship. The second allegation of violation of the statute is the home or environment by reason of neglect, cruelty, drunkenness, criminality, or depravity on the part of the parent is an unfit place for the child to live. Paragraph 5, the reasons why it is contrary to the welfare of the child for the child to remain in the home. Medical personnel expressed concerns for Jacqueline Lomas's cognitive ability to provide basic care for the child. Jacqueline did not find out she was pregnant until 3 weeks prior to giving birth. She does not initiate care for the child and needs prompting for all basic needs. Dakota Harmon Duckworth has mental health concerns, which he refuses treatment for. This includes homicidal ideation. He's very volatile and aggressive with staff. There are concerns for the safety of an infant. Paragraph 6, the reasonable efforts made to prevent the removal of the child include CPS investigation, care pregnancy center, medical hospital, continuous infant care education by staff. The specific allegations in paragraph 7 are in an attached addendum. This particular page contains the request in paragraph 8 to authorize the petition, take jurisdiction over the child, issue an order removing the child from the home. It was signed, of course, by Sarah Harvey and Nastasia Thomas and authorized by myself on August 20th, 2024. The attachment reads, addendum to petition for protective custody and jurisdiction as to respondent parents. Jurisdiction and venue. Jacqueline Lomas is the biological mother of the subject minor. 2, Dakota Harmon Duckworth is the legal father of the subject minor. He signed an affidavit of parentage at Promedica Hickman Hospital. No filing number is available at this time, but will be requested. 3, the subject minor is not a member of or eligible for membership in an American tribe, Native American tribe or band. Jacqueline Lomas and Dakota Harmon Duckworth were asked on 8/19/24 and denied that they or the subject minor have Native American heritage. 4, the subject minor is a resident of Lenawee County, Michigan. The subject minor is currently located at Promedica Hickman Hospital in Adrian, Michigan. 5, the incident of alleged neglect occurred in Lenawee County, Michigan. Factual allegations, neglect and unfit home environment. 6, on 8/17/24, CPS received a complaint which alleged physical neglect of the child by Jacqueline Lomas. The complaint included the following information. A, Jacqueline Lomas did not find out she was pregnant until she was 36 weeks. She gave birth at 39 weeks. 7B, during these 3 weeks, she presented at the Hickman ER on 3 separate occasions. Subsection I, on one occasion, she reported that she thought her baby had died because she had urinated. II, on another occasion, she thought her baby had not, quote, eaten, quote, inside her that day, despite the fact that she ate a whole pizza. Subparagraph Roman numeral 3I, on another occasion, she believed her baby had disappeared because she felt a hard pit in her stomach. 8, EMTs who transported Jacqueline from her home to the hospital reported to the ER staff that they found the home to be, quote, unlivable, quote, with garbage throughout the home. The parents were sleeping on a dirty blow-up mattress on the floor. At hospital admission, both parents presented with head lice. 9, hospital staff report significant concerns for Jacqueline's cognitive ability to care for the baby. 10, Dr. Amy Hammond is the baby's pediatrician. She expressed concerns to the worker and provided a written document which is included with the petition. See Exhibit 1. 11, professionals believe Jacqueline lacks the ability to provide basic care to the child. She has been given instruction on feeding and diapering multiple times and continues to struggle understanding or participating in these basic actions. Dr. Hammond reports that this is well outside the normal understanding of first-time parents. 12, Jacqueline struggles to answer yes or no questions without long pauses to think. She will often guess when she does not know the answer. 13, OBGYN Dr. Baird reported to the worker that Jacqueline was unable to answer simple postpartum questions, such as how much bleeding she was experiencing or if she used the restroom since the birth. 14, Dr. Baird also expressed concerns regarding Jacqueline's cognitive functioning. 15, Jacqueline is unable to maintain a feeding schedule for the child. 16, Jacqueline does not make efforts to hold the child or to bond with him. She is not attentive to him without prompting and assistance from staff. 17, when the child begins to fuss or cry, Jacqueline becomes highly agitated, which is a concern for his safety while at home. 18, Jacqueline reports that she sees a provider at ACPC. These records have been requested but not yet received to confirm this. 19, Jacqueline was referred to prenatal neurology and maternal fetal medicine due to taking seizure medication throughout her pregnancy. Jacqueline made no attempt to see either specialist. Dr. Hammond finds this concerning given the numerous appointments and medical care that newborns require. 20, there are no alternative arrangements available in the parent's home to adequately safeguard the child. 21, Dakota Harmon Duckworth and Jacqueline reside together and intend on raising the child together. 22, Dakota reported to the worker and hospital staff that he has a diagnosis of anxiety, bipolar disorder, suicidal ideation, and homicidal ideation. He reports that he refuses to seek mental health treatment from providers because they want him to, quote, try different things, quote, which he refuses to do. He provided the example of deep breathing and reported, quote, I don't have the cognitive function like that, quote. 23, Dakota reports that he uses THC to control his mental health. He reported that this is not medical marijuana. He reported that he needs to be, quote, zoned out, quote, all of the time to be calm. 24, while at the hospital, Dakota repeatedly exhibits aggressive and volatile behaviors. Security has been called on him. On more than one occasion, these behaviors were triggered by someone asking him to safety plan around his marijuana use. This is something he has yet to agree to. 25, there are concerns about domestic violence in the home. Dakota self-reports that he has aggression issues, screams and yells often, and argues and fights daily with Jacqueline. He reported to the worker that the baby will see this daily. 26, Dakota reported to hospital staff that after they reported that he had lice, he went back to his home, had a panic attack, banged his head against the wall, and then shaved his head. 27, it is unclear if Jacqueline has the ability to provide for the child's material needs. 28, Jacqueline receives SSI payments. Her mother, who resides in Washington, is her payee. 29, reasonable efforts were made to safety plan for this child, including searching for relatives to assist the family. 30, the family has no family supports who live in the area. The family members reside in Washington. 31, the child is medically ready for discharge. 32, placement with a licensed foster home has been secured for the child. Statutory citations. 33, statutory grounds for adjudication. Based on the above stated allegations, jurisdiction is proper under the following subsections of MCL 712A.2b. The child are under the age of 18, and A1, the child's parents, when able to do so, neglect or refuse to provide proper or necessary support, education, medical, surgical, or other care necessary for the child's health or morals, who is subject to a substantial risk of harm to his mental well-being, who is abandoned by his parents, or who is without proper custody and guardianship. And B2, the child's home or environment with either parent, by reason of neglect, cruelty, drunkenness, criminality, or depravity on the part of a parent, is an unfit place for the juvenile to live in. 34, statutory grounds for removal. Based on the above stated allegations and pursuant to MCL 712A.13A9, removal of the child from the respondent parent's care and custody is necessary, and placement of the child into foster care is necessary as the following are true. A, custody of the child with the parent presents a substantial risk of harm to the child's life, physical health, or mental well-being. B, no provision of service or other arrangement except removal of the child is reasonably available to adequately safeguard the child from risk as described in subdivision A. C, continuing the child's residence in the home is contrary to the child's welfare. D, consistent with the circumstances, reasonable efforts were made to prevent or eliminate the need for removal of the child. E, conditions of the child away from the parent are adequate to safeguard the child's health and welfare. Relief requested. 1, authorize this petition for protective custody and jurisdiction as to respondent parents, Jacqueline Lomas and Dakota Harmon Duckworth. 2, issue an emergency order removing the child from the care and custody of his parents, Jacqueline Lomas and Dakota Harmon Duckworth, placing the child in the care and custody of the department to be placed in a licensed foster placement. 3, take jurisdiction over the child pursuant to MCL 712A.2B1 and 2. And 4, set this matter for adjudication trial. Respectfully submitted, Nastasia Thomas and Sarah Harvey for HHS. 2024.
I'm going to pause right here real quick because this brings up a really interesting question in my mind. For almost anything we do in life, we're required to have some kind of training first, some kind of test before we're allowed to do it, even very simple things. But yet we go to the hospital, we pop out a baby, and they say, okay, here, and send you home on your way with no real training, no instruction manual. I mean, even IKEA gives you an instruction manual, even though, it's kind of hard to understand. There's at least some pictures, you can kind of get the idea. With a baby, nope, here you go, good luck. And the only time anyone steps in to do anything is after you've screwed up royally. And it's the baby that suffers when you screw up, which usually ends up making a messed up adult. That's kind of a problem. And there was a recent case in Florida that I wanted to share with you all, but I just hadn't been able to bring myself to do it. But I think this is the right. A 1-month-old infant was taken to the hospital with a severe head injury. Upon examination, the doctors determined that the baby had multiple skull fractures, as well as healing fractures and other areas of its body. The mother was ultimately arrested. She is a teenager who had said that she wished the child was not in her care and had admitted to squeezing the baby and causing the injuries. I'm going to cover this case in a little more detail on its own stream, but this is an example of WTF is going on in this world, that this happened. Yeah, it's a huge issue, and what can be done about it? I really don't know.
There is an exhibit that was attached and served with the petition that I'm not going to read. It's not been incorporated into as part of the petition. And it is available for the parents and their attorneys to review. There is also the order to take the children into protective custody in the file at this point. And there is a proof of service indicating that Dakota Harmon, Duckworth, Angelica, and Len Lomas were served with the petition, notice of this hearing, and the ex parte removal order personally by Hannah Trout on August 20th at 8:25 p.m. Last Ms. Trout in the future to put 8/20/24, but that's all right. Okay, so I've received a request for jury demand for both parents in this file, so I'm happy to schedule that. As it relates to the preliminary hearing itself, I have already authorized the petition. Any testimony as it relates to placement pending the jury trial request? Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. If Ms. Harvey can be sworn in, please.
All right. Sorry, I'm sure.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes. All right, before we begin, gentlemen, obviously your clients each have the right to decline or waive the probable cause aspect of this hearing for purposes of removal or placement. But I'm also aware of the concerns on the abilities of your clients to be informed on those pieces.
My client wishes to proceed with probable cause hearing, Your Honor.
I'll go along for the ride because you're going to do it anyway.
Well, Mr. Brooks, I think it's imperative that we ensure that we follow the protocols here, especially given I'm not sure that your clients, based on the information I have, can really afford to waive any of their rights to their friend.
That is a concern of mine as well, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Thomas. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Harvey, where are you currently employed?
Lenawee County DHHS.
And what is your position there?
I'm currently a CPS investigator.
And as a CPS investigator, is that how you became familiar with this family?
Yes.
And did you draft the petition that is before the court today?
Yes, I did.
And you heard the judge read the petition into the record?
Yes,
And is everything that the judge read into the record that you signed to accurate to the best of your belief and knowledge?
yes, to the best of my knowledge.
As the investigator in this matter, how did you learn about, or what tools did you implement to learn about the allegations that you put into the petition?
This referral came in over the weekend, so an on-call worker had actually commenced this. So on Monday, when I was assigned, I read through the allegations and the referral. I also spoke to the on-call worker who went to the hospital and met with the parents, and I spoke to multiple medical staff at the hospital.
Do you have an opportunity to speak with the parents?
Yes, I did on Monday.
Okay. And when you spoke with medical professionals at the hospital, what concerns were brought to your attention?
In regards to the mother, there were major concerns that they had noted regarding a possible lack of cognitive function and her understanding of basic needs for her child. They reported that they had to multiple times explain simple tasks like diapering. They did not feel that she, after multiple attempts to educate her, could understand a feeding schedule. One example was that a nurse indicated that she thought that Miss Lomas could feed her child, but she did not think that she would remember when she fed him last, or how much he had eaten at that time, and she didn't believe that she would wake him up at a set time to feed him. That was a major concern of theirs. They also had major concerns regarding her bond with the baby. There didn't seem to be much bond or a interest in bonding. In regards to Dakota, there were major concerns regarding a number of events in the hospital unit itself in which there were major aggression issues. He left the hospital on multiple occasions because he was very upset. That's what was reported to me. He also would speak over Jackie when Jackie was asked questions. When they were trying to gauge if Jackie had an understanding, he would answer for Jackie, which made it very difficult for nursing staff to understand. He also explained some mental health diagnoses, which were very concerning, and explained that he was not seeking mental health treatment for those, that instead he chooses to smoke marijuana. There were multiple staff members that had various conversations with him in which he became aggressive. At one point, he postured towards a hospital staff member. So safety and security became a major issue in that regard.
During your investigation, who informed you of Miss Lomas going to the hospital during her pregnancy and not really have an understanding of what it was like to be pregnant?
Hospital staff, they had updated me on the number of occasions in which she had presented in the ER and what she had presented for. I have requested those records in full, but I have not yet received them.
What were the concerns of those prenatal visits to the ER?
They quoted, I can quote them as saying they were irrational concerns. They did not feel that they were concerns that a typical first-time mother would present to the ER for.
I apologize for that. And what can you just elaborate a little more on what those concerns were?
Yes, at one point, as was read in the petition, it was reported to me that she came to the ER and indicated that she thought her baby was dead because she had urinated. Another instance was, she was having a panic attack and a paranoia moment that she didn't believe that her child in utero had eaten enough that day. And I believe there was another incident in which she felt that she had lost the baby, that the baby was dead because there was a pit in her stomach.
Did anyone report concerns about the living environment of the family at that time?
Yes, when on my first discussions with hospital staff while they were updating me from things over the weekend, hospital staff told me that when EMS had dropped her off in the emergency room, the EMS workers had indicated that their home was, in their words, unlivable. It was very dirty. There
I'm
were,
going to object, and I realize that hearsay is allowed, but this is compounded hearsay. This is what the nurses were told, but EMS, this worker was told by the nurses. So I think it's not probative because it's so far removed. That's my objection.
Would you like to respond, Ms. Thomas?
Your Honor, I think it speaks to the concerns of the department that the home environment is an unfit place for the child to reside. And I understand Mr. McFarland's concerns, and it is on us at trial to secure testimony from those witnesses according to the court rules.
Yes, duly noted, Mr. McFarland, but the objection is overruled because hearsay is admissible at this stage.
Thank you.
All right, you may finish your answer.
they had indicated that the parents were sleeping on what they described as a dirty blow-up mattress. And nursing staff also indicated to me that while they were in the hospital, nursing staff was having to clean up their room because there were dirty diapers inside their hospital room on the floor. There were numerous bottles after they would be done feeding the baby, they would just leave the bottles laying around. So nursing staff were having to clean up after them.
As it relates to the baby's pediatrician, what were some of the concerns that are highlighted? I know that they are in the petition, but there's also an attached letter. And I believe that did you also speak with Dr. Amy Hammond?
Yes, I did on more than one occasion.
And what were her concerns for this family and the safety of this child?
I'm going to reiterate Mr. McFarland's objection to hearsay on hearsay.
Same response, Ms. Thomas, or anything different?
Same response, Your Honor.
Very good. The objection is overruled, but duly noted. Thank you.
I spoke to Dr. Hammond myself, and Dr. Hammond told me that her concerns regarded mom's cognitive ability. She felt that she had on numerous occasions attempted to explain how to make a bottle using formula, and it seemed after numerous times, mom still did not seem to grasp that concept. She had major concerns for Jackie's ability just to provide basic care for the baby. She had concerns that Jackie did not attend either one of the specialists that she was referred to, and that a newborn requires a lot of medical care, especially this child didn't receive prenatal care. We don't know what medical conditions may come up soon. She was concerned about the parent's ability to make and keep appointments and care for the child. She was also concerned about the safety issues with the father in the hospital.
At some point in time, Ms. Lomas became ready for discharge, correct? Is that correct?
Yes.
Was the baby also ready for discharge at that same time?
The baby medically was ready for discharge. However, Dr. Hammond did not discharge the baby due to continued social concerns, which revolved around the fact that she did not feel that Jackie had yet grasped the concept and understanding of feeding and diaper changing and basic skills.
Did you observe or did medical staff express concern about Ms. Lomas's ability or willingness to bond with the child?
Yes, more than one hospital staff indicated that they felt there was minimal attempt to bond. She would hold the baby, but you would need to give the baby to her to hold, that she didn't want to pick up the baby, that when the baby cried, she often wanted to hand the baby to someone else because she became very anxious and panicked when the baby cried. There was also very little skin to skin when he was first born. She did not participate for very long in that.
In any of your investigation, did you discover any adult guardianships over either of the parents?
No, there are no adult guardianships that I know of, but I do know that Ms. Lomas has a payee.
A payee for what?
She has indicated that she receives Social Security income, and she has a payee for that income.
And did she indicate why she receives Social Security income?
She herself did not. Dakota interjected and said that she received Social Security due to the fact that her father had died, and her mom also told me that she received Social Security because her father died.
Are you familiar with Social Security income payments?
A little.
To the best of your knowledge, does an individual over the age of 19 receive Social Security payments for a deceased parent?
To the best of my knowledge, no, not without them having some form of disability acknowledged by Social Security itself.
Is it standard for a recipient of Social Security income to have a payee without having an underlying disability themselves?
No, it's not standard.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. I'd like to voir dire because she says she's somewhat familiar, yet she's going into quite some detail. I would like to know what her familiarity is because she's already testified she's only somewhat familiar.
You are more than welcome to cross-examine Mr. McFarland, and I will be happy to let you do that after the conclusion of the direct examination.
Thank you. Ms. Harvey, one of the notes or one of the allegations is that the department provided reasonable efforts by searching for relatives. Can you just provide a little more information on that point?
Yes, I asked and discussed with both parents, relatives, who their supportive people were, etc. Jackie indicated her mom, who is here visiting from Washington State. I had heard also someone say her sister, so I asked her about her sister. She named a sister named Erica. She said she doesn't really talk to her that much, but she had 6 children and she had helped her raise them in the past. Dakota indicated to me that he gave me his mother's name. He indicated that he had been in and out of foster care growing up. He also has a sister named Brandy. He believes she lives in Utah, but he's not really sure. It appears that all of their other supports live in the state of Washington.
You indicated that Ms. Lomas's mother is present today.
Yes.
Is there concern or would there be a sufficient safety plan if she were to stay at the home with the family and the child?
I do not believe that it would be enough of a safety barrier. When I had discussions with Mrs. Lomas or Miss Lomas, when I brought up my concerns, she minimized my concerns. She had multiple excuses for certain behaviors. There were moments where things were very contradicting. For example, Dakota's aggression. She would report that right now he's doing well and she hopes that he continues on this path, but yes, indicated he does yell. Yes, he does scream. Yes, in the past few days, he has had to leave the hospital because he is very aggressive. So there was a lot of those contradictions. When asked about cognitive function of Jackie, she reported that there were no cognitive issues for Jackie. And it seems, based on medical personnel's opinion, that there may actually be more than we're being told.
Based on the information that you gathered in your investigation, do you believe that there is a substantial risk of harm to the child's life, physical health, or mental well-being?
Yes.
And generally speaking, I know that you've testified a lot to this. How would you summarize that risk?
I believe that there's a risk for neglect of basic care. And I believe that there is a risk also of domestic violence in the home, even if it is just verbal. And I believe that there could also be a major safety concern, since Dakota has indicated he does have suicidal and homicidal ideations, and they're not being treated.
Thank you. And the child is currently in a licensed foster home? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Okay. And are there any safety concerns within that foster home?
No, not to my knowledge.
Do the foster parents have a basic understanding of infant care, to the best of your
Yes.
knowledge?
Yes.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination, Mr. McFarland?
I do. This foster care home, are they a potential adaptive placement?
I believe so. I think that that's one of the first questions that they talked about permanence with the licensed foster care home. I believe that. I can't completely speak to it.
You don't know that personally.
Correct.
It's not written down anyplace,
Not that I've seen.
so we don't know.
Someone may know. I myself do not know.
Oh. I know you received HIPAA training, which is what medical records you cannot secure, correct?
Yes.
My understanding is you can't just ask doctors questions without getting some type of authorization, correct? Or an order, or a form, I should say, a form by the state, correct?
Yes. Miss Lomas signed a 1555.
Mother signed this?
Yes.
Now, your petition indicates you have some problem with her cognitive abilities, correct?
Mhm.
Is that yes?
Yes. Medical personnel have concerns regarding her cognitive abilities.
So how can you have her sign a form authorizing if you have concerns regarding her ability to make decisions?
She has no other legal guardian, therefore she is her own legal consent.
So you don't think her cognitive abilities impair her enough that she does not understand at least what a release is, correct?
She understood what I was getting. She does not have a guardian. I have no other way to legally stop her from making her own decisions.
The doctors expressed to you that they had concerns with her cognitive abilities, correct?
Correct.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask that any testimony concerning mothers, any discussions with medical staff regarding mothers' medical conditions be stricken, as there's been testimony from this worker that the medical field believes that mother lacks capacity, and yet she signed a release. I don't think we can pick and choose capacity. I think there's if the claim is she lacks capacity, then I don't think she has capacity to sign a release. So that's my objection to the testimony regarding any medical experts hearsay, and that I think it would actually need capacity to sign a release.
Would you like to respond for the record, Ms. Demis?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Harvey has testified correctly that until or unless there's a judicial determination that this individual does lack the capacity, we have to honor and respect any releases that she signs or any information that she provides, because she can make her own decisions to the best of our knowledge. If Mr. McFarland would like to adjourn this hearing and get his client or mother or whoever screened for that cognitive impairment and we can go through an adult guardianship process, we are happy to oblige with that.
Leave that to Mr. Brooks to make that call as that's his client. But it
Okay.
does involve my client's child also, is why I'm raising those objections.
So I'm gonna overrule the objection, because she doesn't have a guardian that we're aware of, and, Ms. Harvey as well within her bounds, as she described, to ask her to sign that release if she so chooses. And the other reason we're here, and your clients have a right to a trial, is because there is a presumption that they are able to be fit parents unless, that can be proven otherwise. So this is a preliminary hearing to determine whether or not they are fit. And the investigation into that and those records are a necessary part of that. I will not be ruling on mom's capacity or lack thereof. I am frankly not really concerned about that. I'm concerned about whether or not she can provide a safe environment for this child. Secondarily, I do also, by the same token, I'm not responsible for a guardian, even if one of your clients may need one. Frankly, I'm here just to determine whether or not this child can be safely returned to the parents, or if other provisions need to be made. So that's what I'm prepared to listen to. And so that's why your objection is overruled, and I'm certainly not going to allow Ms. Thomas to engage in looking into guardianships for the parents either.
Thank you. You did have a conversation with mothers with the maternal grandmother who's here in court, correct?
Yes.
Did you ask her about Native American heritage, the ICWA issues?
No, I don't. I did not ask her about Native American heritage.
Any reason why not? If your belief is that to qualify to have a payee, there maybe some type of mental issues, is there any reason, or fit any disability issues, is there any reason why you haven't asked maternal grandmother?
To be honest, it was just policy to ask parents. I didn't, she seemed very knowledgeable of her answer. She explained to me her ethnicity and her Hispanic heritage in that conversation.
Okay. You indicate that maternal grandmother was using excuses to my client, was your testimony, correct?
There were excuses for some behaviors, yes.
Those excuses also be categorized as explanations as far as
You
my
could
client.
say that. They were her opinions of explanations, yes.
Are you the person we would ask regarding supervised visits, unsupervised visits? Are you the person who would have an opinion, or is there somebody else who'd have an opinion on parenting time for my clients and my client in the interim?
I believe that myself and a foster care worker would both have opinions on that.
Is it true that you're asking for supervised parenting time?
Yes, we would.
Okay. With a newborn, at least 3 times a week, 2 hours a visit, is that what you're expressing?
I myself would request whatever the current standard is for visitation, and I do not know what that is at this time.
Any opinion as to mothers, the maternal grandmother as being a suitable supervisor?
Due to some of the concerns, we would actually like a supervisor to be, due to bonding and things like that, perhaps someone more therapeutic, maybe Brene Moore would be a suitable supervisor in this instance.
My client tells me that somebody was over there just the other day from the agency and inspected the home, and it does not appear to be disheveled or disorganized or filthy.
That is correct. Grandma indicated that she cleaned the house.
Did you view the house?
So, yes, I did.
So the house right now.
Right now, yes. Yes, it is.
So that's not a detriment to return the child to the house as far as cleanliness,
Not
correct?
today, correct, not today.
Okay. It appears to be appropriate for return of the child, at least safety wise and cleanliness wise. Would that be an accurate statement?
The home itself, yes, today.
Transportation, do the parents have issues with transportation?
Yes, I believe they do.
What would the agency be able to do to assist them with transportation for parenting?
That would be a foster care question. I don't exactly know what all of the standards are right now.
Is there a worker here today to testify to that?
Yes, there is a foster care worker here today.
Okay.
Mr. Brooks?
How old is this child?
3 days.
4 days.
4 days old. Alright. And where is the foster care home where the child is at?
I believe it's in Blissfield.
You indicated my clients have transportation issues. Where do they live?
They live in Adrian.
And what are their transportation issues?
I believe that they do not have transportation. I don't know specific reasons why.
Have you asked, or has anyone checked to see if they have driver's licenses?
I know that Dakota does not have a driver's license. The identification that I saw was just an identification card. And I'm not exactly sure. I know they don't have a vehicle. I'm not exactly sure of the driving license status of Miss Lomas.
All right. Now, you have indicated in your testimony several references to cognitive disabilities with regard to my client. Is that right?
Cognitive impairment was what the medical staff were saying to.
Thank you. Are you capable of giving in layman's terms some idea of what that term means?
It would be the ability to function, reason, make good decisions, perform activities, our day-to-day brain function of how we go through life.
Would you consider that to be the same type of issues as emotional issues as opposed to what you described?
I think that they can be very separate issues.
Did you say separate?
Yes, you can have one without the other.
When you have discussed these issues with my client, have you not?
I did ask her, actually, the on-call worker actually asked her and had the conversation with her about it, not myself.
So you weren't there?
I was not. I was told and read in my SAC the contact from
Would
that
it be
conversation.
fair to say that you have not discussed the concept of cognitive impairments with this woman?
I didn't per se exactly ask for cognitive impairments. I asked her if there were any reasons why she had Social Security, trying to ask if there were a disability, in which she didn't, to be honest, she didn't answer 2 of my questions. And then the other, she indicated her Social Security was not disability and it was because her father died.
Do you think it would be advisable if you or someone in your position were to explain in as plain English as possible what the concern is? With cognitive impairments?
I believe a medical staff would have to explain, because it is not my expertise. However, it is something that we would like to have assessments done for, to really just get to the bottom of the question.
Well, it appears you believe the issue is threatening enough that you have the authority to remove this child from these 2, isn't that right?
Medical staff indicate that it is a major concern. We then listen to medical staff and their concerns because that is their area of expertise.
Has there been any parenting time plan created at this point in time, or have they simply not seen their child?
It has only been since, I believe, around 8 o'clock last night. It is the plan that when court is finished today to come up with the plan.
So what is the current parenting time plan?
There currently is not one. We will be discussing that after the hearing.
After this hearing? When after this hearing?
I believe immediately after the foster care worker is here.
All right, well, it's 4:25. Are you saying by, say, 5 o'clock, there will be a visitation plan, or are you
There-
not saying that?
Based on the court's rulings, we will have the discussions after our hearing.
Have you discussed with my client's mother, the lady who apparently is the lady sitting behind me, whether she is a suitable candidate to take care of this child?
We did discuss whether or not she would be interested in guardianship, which she indicated that she would. However, there would be concerns because she does not seem to share the same concerns that we do regarding the parent's ability. In some instances, she agrees, but then in other instances, there are major questions as to whether the parents would be unsupervised with the child, et cetera.
To your knowledge, does this child have any special needs?
Not that I know of.
I have no further questions.
Ms. Underwood?
Ms. Harvey, have you been able to observe whether the parents have purchased any baby items such as a crib or bassinet or car seat for the child?
I do know that they worked with Care Pregnancy Center. There is a bassinet in their home. There are a few outfits. I saw 2 boxes of diapers and 2 containers of baby wipes, and some bottles. I believe that they also had WIC, for formula.
Okay, and
I-
Miss Lomas is the mother you indicated is in town, but she resides in Washington, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Is there any knowledge as to how long she will be remaining in the state of Michigan?
No, I do not know. I asked, because there were indications that they would all be going back to Washington State. I received different answers, sometimes 3 to 6 months, sometimes as soon as the baby is able to travel. There really wasn't an indication on that. I don't believe that there is a set date that she is going back to Washington State.
I don't have any further questions, thank you.
Any redirect, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Any recross, gentlemen?
No.
No.
Thank you for your testimony. Your next witness, Ms. Thomas?
I have no other witnesses, Your Honor.
Mr. McFarland?
I would like to call the maternal grandmother.
Your name, ma'am?
Your name, ma'am?
Patty Lomas. Lomas, come on up to our witness.
Squeeze you here, please. Squeeze you here.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, like that? Step here, be careful when you get up there.
All right, is your full name Patty? Or is it Patricia?
Patty.
All right, could you scoot up to our microphone? That's that little black thing right there. Yes, could you spell your first and last name, please?
PADDYLOMAS.
Thank you.
Ma'am, could you speak up just a little bit louder? There's a vent right over my head.
Yes,
Thank you. Is it true that you are currently residing with both mom and dad?
yes, yes, it is.
Your Honor, it's not gonna work. She's gonna have to speak louder.
Pretend like I'm on the back door and you could shout.
Okay,
Are you living with mom and dad right now?
yes, I am.
Okay. Do you have any plans to return to Washington immediately?
No.
Do you want to be considered for placement of the child?
I would like that to, yes.
If the court determines that parents cannot live with you, would you find someplace in Adrian to live by yourself?
I would.
Okay. Next question would be, if the court instructs that the parents cannot visit with you, that has to be in another supervised setting, would you abide by that? Would you follow the court order?
I will.
Do you have any criminal history? Have you ever been convicted of any crimes?
No,
Have you ever been investigated by Child Protective Services?
No.
Have you ever been investigated by Adult Protective Services?
No.
And would you be able to live here as long as necessary? Let's say if this case was open for 14 months, would you be able to stay here for that period of time?
I will.
How long do you think it would take you to
actually find a place of your own?
I don't know the area and I don't know how, availability of places, but I will start doing that right now, right away.
Okay. Let me ask you, do you have any Indian blood in your family line, either your family, your father, or your mother's?
On my mother's side, yes.
Okay, and what Native American tribe might that be?
I don't know. I just know we have some native. but-
Is there anybody alive who would know what Native American heritage that is?
My mother passed away.
Okay, well, thank you for letting us know. No further questions.
Mr. Brooks?
Ma'am, do you consider the state of Washington your home?
Yes, right now,
How long have you lived there?
since 2006.
2006. Were you born and raised there?
No,
Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Mexico.
All right. And you've lived in Washington since 2006?
Correct.
And before that, where did you live?
I lived in the state of California, the state of Arizona, Nevada. I lived in Michigan. That's where Jackie was born, 1998, 2004, I believe.
So in 2006, you lived in a number of different states.
And 2006, I lived in Washington.
Thank you. Are you married or single?
I'm widow. My husband passed away.
You're a widow.
Yes.
Do you have any other children who live with you?
No.
Do you have any, and I don't want to get too personal, but do you have anyone else who lives with you?
Anyone?
Anyone else who lives with you?
My granddaughter lived with me and I think she moved out of the house last week. She's 20.
Permanently?
Yes.
Do you work?
I don't.
You've heard all of the testimony about the allegations of cognitive impairment that have been thrown around here, have you not?
Yes, I heard.
Are you aware of what that means?
Yes.
Tell me.
Well, that they believe that Jackie is not capable of taking care of her child, which I can agree with that because she has been babysat before. And she has done a good job. She's a very caring person. And she's very, very responsible in that respect. I understand she's got some medication that she's taking. And I think has some side effects as of maybe sleepy or drowsy or something to that effect. I'm not sure, but that's what I'm thinking that's happening, except, and another thing is that they don't have much social life, so when you're isolated, you tend to be more quiet, you know.
How far did your daughter go in school?
She graduated from high school.
Did she graduate?
Yes, she did.
Has she had any schooling beyond high school?
Yes, she has been going to school, college.
How far did she get in that?
She was just taking general classes. Nothing yet.
And how long was she engaged in that?
How long did she go to school after?
After high school, right?
I believe like a couple of semesters.
To your knowledge, did she pass her classes in college?
Most of them.
Most of them. There you go. Let me ask you one last simple question. How many kids have you got?
3.
I guess I have 2 questions. Are you capable, in your opinion, of taking care of this infant child?
Very, very capable.
I have nothing further.
Ms. Underwood?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Okay. Prior testimony indicated that you were the payee for Jackie's Social Security. Is that correct?
yes, I am,
How much does she receive on a monthly basis?
around 1,400.
And what is the reason for that Social Security?
Well, she started getting Social Security since she was born. Based on my husband being older and retired, and when he passed away, he passed away when she was 4 years old, actually. So we started getting survivor's benefits since then, her and I.
Okay, so are those benefits named for Jackie or are they named for you?
Well, some are for her and some are for me. So
And-
we both get.
Do you provide her with those benefits so she can use them for living expenses?
Yes, I do.
And how long do you intend to be in Michigan for?
For as long as it takes for everything to be clear and good, for my daughter to have her baby back.
And then do you intend on returning to Washington?
Well, beyond that, I don't see a reason to be here for them either to be here because they have no family, nobody around. So their family is in the West Coast, in Washington, in California.
Are you concerned with the father of the child's behaviors?
Am I concerned?
Yes.
Well, what I have seen is that since I've been here, he was taking care of Jackie when she was having a lot of getting up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and but because she was in the last phase, she was going to the bathroom a lot. Yes, she was nervous, she was concerned because she had never been pregnant before. And with your first pregnancy, it's always worrisome. I mean, I remember.
Ma'am, I was
Right now-
asking you about the father's behavior, not the mother's concerns.
Oh,
Can you limit your testimony? I asked if you're concerned with the behaviors of the father.
well, so far not. I mean, he sometimes raises his voice because I think he gets excited and he wants to be heard. But I have heard other people doing the same thing, like they want to be heard, so they raise their voice, but well, I don't think so in the overall.
What was the condition of the home before you cleaned it?
It wasn't picked up that good, but because I gathered that Jackie has been not feeling well. And Dakota was taking care of her a lot. So I came for that reason, to help, to make sure, they got some, not just help in the house, but with, Jackie needed somebody, mother, sister, somebody more close than, somebody that had been pregnant before, somebody to, she had a lot of questions, so she would be asking me a lot of questions, and I would be there to help her. And that's what I
Oh,
came.
ma'am, I'm going to ask the
Support.
question again. What was the condition of the home before you cleaned it?
Well, it wasn't well cleaned, like what I was saying, is that,
Was there trash lying around the home?
there was things around the house, like, a couple of bags of garbage that needed to be, thrown away, and a couple of boxes, here and there, but that was picked up right away. I mean,
How long did it take you to clean the home?
how long?
Yes.
Well, between Dakota and I, Jackie didn't help because she couldn't do it, but we just cleaned here and there, due to the kitchen, I did dishes and just did whatever had to be done to be in perfect condition.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Honor. Ms. Lomas, you indicated that you are the payee for your daughter's Social Security income. Can you explain why you are a payee or why she needs one?
Well, because we got it that way since the first day she got it. She was a minor, she was a baby, a child. When her father passed away, so it has been under, she gets her check under my name ever since then. And I thought that just getting together with, others, she would be able to focus on, paying her things, her own things, instead of I don't know, it just stayed like that under my name.
Okay. And did she have any special education services when she was a youth, like an IEP?
She did, but I'm going to tell you why. When she was when her father passed away, she was 4. And we were barely moving from Michigan. And so we were left, we sold the house in Michigan, and we went to Arizona. And then my husband went to Mayo Clinic, to Minnesota because he had cancer. And I was,
Ma'am, I don't think we need a full explanation here. I just was wondering if she did receive any educational services when she was in school, and you answered affirmatively, correct?
okay, so she didn't go to school. I didn't want to let her go anywhere. Because we were mourning her dad's death.
Okay.
So she didn't go to school until she was 6.5. And that's when we went to Washington, and we saw this church, and it was a Catholic school, and it was a nice place, and I said, we're gonna move here, she's gonna go to this school, and that's when she started going to school. So they put her in kindergarten instead of first grade, because she had never been to school, even though she knew, how to count and the basic things, few things here and there, but so they put her in kindergarten, so we're kind of behind. Now,
okay.
She got
Ms. Lomas, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we are the court is closed, and so I just wanted to confirm about the IEP. And with that, I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, counselors, I would be inclined to adjourn today's preliminary hearing and take it back up on Friday, August 30th, to allow the department to thoroughly investigate the home, to investigate the placement request by this relative who clearly has placement priority, assuming she passes a background check and has an appropriate environment for her grandchild. Your thoughts?
My client's agreeable to that, Your Honor. Was that this Friday, or did you say the 30th?
The 30th.
Yeah, that's fine.
In the meantime, the child would stay in the placement, but the department has the authority and has placement. So in the event that this relative is able to show us that she's an appropriate caregiver and has a safe environment, I would expect the department to be utilizing that and moving the child even before we came back. So with that, Ms. Thomas, I would look for any arguments or objections on that point.
No, Your Honor, we would be agreeable to that. I believe that when the petition was filed, it was Ms. Harvey's understanding that Ms. Lomas would be returning to Washington. As she testified, there was no clear indication of her intent to stay. So that was not explored. And obviously the living environment would also need to be explored as well. So I have no objections to that, and can join at any time on the 30th.
Ms. Underwood, I look forward to your thoughts on this, as well as your opinion on what would serve the best interest of this child at this point.
Your Honor, I believe that based on the testimony given so far today, that the child remaining in foster care at this point is in his best interest until we can further navigate placement with maternal grandmother. I do have some concerns. However, I trust that the department will fully investigate those and ensure that if the child were to be placed with maternal grandmother, that it would be in a safe environment. But at this time, if there is going to be any sort of parenting time, I would ask that it be supervised by a professional at this time.
Mr. McFarland?
Well, I said I had no disagreement with an adjournment. Was there another issue?
Supervised parenting time until we come back, or DHS otherwise verifies that it's safe to have one or more of these parents with this child unsupervised, given the allegations in the petition at this time.
I've discussed that, and as opposed to no parenting time, we agree with that. We'd also like to have maternal grandmother have parenting time, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks?
Well, one of the questions I asked earlier was, once the hearing is done, can we have a schedule by 5 o'clock? And the witness said, yeah, we can probably get that done. And so I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to be back here on Friday and nobody's put their heads together and given us anything, which has happened so frequently in these cases.
It'll be next Friday, and the department's going home with a list of homework, including to investigate Ms. Patty Lomas as far as her request for placement. She's a relative, she has priority. Investigate where she's at, and give her the opportunity to find a different safe place if she so chooses to, in order to secure placement. To develop a parenting schedule that would allow for both parents to have some supervised parenting time and allow this grandmother to see her child or grandchild as well. To begin the investigation into the potential Native American heritage. Am I missing anything, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
I am anticipating some sort of parenting time between now, hopefully, and Friday, and certainly by a week from Friday.
I would expect that as well. I know there are transportation issues with the family, but it sounds like the child is relatively local. And there are some resources and a family member here, so I would also expect.
Thank you.
What time was that on the 30th you're proposing?
10:30?
My client's fine by that.
10:30 a.m. on August 30th.
One question in addition, Your Honor. I anticipate that there's probably medical appointments for this child in the interim, where clients be able to participate by Zoom, or at least getting information as a result of these appointments.
I don't see why they wouldn't be allowed the information as far as the appointments go or anything else. I'll leave that to the department to organize that. And it's somewhat going to depend also on how cooperative the parents are with the department at this point. There are some concerning things in this petition, which is why I authorize removal. So as long as the parents are being respectful, and I understand it's a difficult situation, but as long as you're being respectful to the department, I expect the department to be respectful back, and you all be able to work together in the best interest of this child. All right, then we're gonna recess for the day. The removal order will remain in place given the allegations in the petition. You've heard me on the rest of it, and we'll see you back here Friday the 30th at 10:30 in the morning. That's all for today.
Presumption will not be in order.
Your Honor, is it possible to appear via Zoom for that hearing? I do have a scheduled vacation that day.
Yes.
I'll be out of town. Okay.
We appreciate you taking the time to appear.
So you can have that written down?
4121. Okay, so we're back on the record in this file. There was a removal last week, and we have the beginning of the preliminary hearing. We've adjourned to today to allow further investigation because we learned that the grandmother was here locally, and I asked the department to do some more investigation into the household to look at that relative placement. So I'm looking forward to the updates. I did have a brief sidebar with the attorneys, in which essentially, in my opinion, seemed like it was a bit of a preview for the information that's going to be presented today in the efforts made to answer the question that the court's already posed to the department. But if there's any additional comments, we'll look forward to those from the attorneys after appearances.
Good morning, Your Honor. Nicole Underwood, guardian ad litem for the minor child.
Ms. Saja Thomas, counsel for the department. Ms. Harvey?
Sarah Harvey, DHHS.
Michael Brooks, I represent the mother, Jacqueline Lomas.
Your name for the record, ma'am?
Jackie Lois.
Michael McFarland, representing father, please introduce yourself.
I'm Dakota Herman Duckworth. I'm the father.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Jones, do you need anybody to spell? No, I've got him. Good, okay, thank you so much. All right, comments about the sidebar, beginning with Ms. Thomas?
I have no additional comments, Jenna. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Underwood?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Gentlemen?
No,
I would say the court's comments are accurate.
Thank you. All right, so Ms. Thomas, let's get to it then, in answering the questions about placement in the home of the parents, please.
Thank you, Honor. I'll ask if that Ms. Harvey be sworn in.
Ms. Harvey, come on up for a witness stand.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Here we are. Okay, Ms. Thomas, proceed at will.
Thank you. Ms. Harvey, at the last hearing, the court had asked the department to explore whether the maternal grandmother was an appropriate placement option for the child. At this time, what efforts have been made to make that determination?
Jill Heilman, who's the worker who has been working with the family on that topic. I do know that she has been to the home. She's started the home assessment. She's met with grandma. They do need to meet again. I believe it's next Thursday to continue on that topic. Because grandma's residence is in Washington, it is going to take some time for the background checks and the things like that to come back, because there is it's not as easy as if we were talking about someone residing in Michigan. But all of that is underway and actively being pursued.
At this time, the maternal grandmother still is staying with the parents. Is that accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, she has not secured any housing outside of the parents' home.
And there's a policy, I believe, that allows a child to be placed with a relative and the relative essentially to live with the parents. Would that be an appropriate situation for this family?
I do not believe it would be appropriate. There are some safety concerns surrounding some statements that Mr. Harmon Duckworth has said in regards to the safety of his son and his mental health.
In order for the court to make those decisions, the court's record needs to reflect the facts that it's considering. And what, from your investigation or that you've learned through Jill's documentation and the department system, gives rise to such alarm? Like, what does it mean that there's safety concerns regarding his statements?
Okay. Mr. Harmon Duckworth has made statements that I have myself witnessed and statements that were said to Ms. Heilman, specifically to Ms. Heilman this week. All of it stems around the topic of marijuana use. He reports that he needs to be high in order for the people around him to be safe and for his son to be safe, was the statement that was made this week. Previous to that, he has reported that he uses marijuana to calm himself so that people around him can be safe. We also speak to him about the fact that if he is the primary parenting person, he cannot be under the influence. If there's obviously going to be a time where someone else may not be the primary caregiver at that moment, he cannot be under the influence and be a caregiver in those moments. And he has openly said that people around him are not safe when he is not under the influence.
Have you heard or witnessed any concerns regarding, in the petition, I believe that there were homicidal or suicidal ideations that were concerns. Does that remain a concern for the department at this time?
Yes, we've seen no remedy to that.
Have there been any instances in which he has appeared to have homicidal ideations?
There was one small concerning incident. I say small because it was short in timeframe. With Ms. Heidelman in the home, where she felt unsafe as Mr. Duckworth was coming close to her carrying a knife. And she said, can I help you with something? Because he was coming closer into her personal space. He said, I'm carrying this knife in a safe way. If I wanted to hurt you, I would carry my knife like this. And then he did a slashing motion and held the knife up. That made the worker feel very unsafe in the moment. It also just goes to the topic of safety concerns inside the homeless parents.
Were there any concerns about his use of kitchen knives in general or weapons?
Outside of that incident, he did just state that in the past he has carried with him a broken knife so that he couldn't use the knife on someone if he felt like he wanted to harm them. He also had a plastic knife so that he could use the plastic knife and he wouldn't harm someone with the knife if he had those two objects. There are concerns though that if he reports, if he is not using to a substantial amount, then there are safety concerns. There are obviously going to be knives in a home where steak knives, you use things to cut things. There are going to be knives in a home. It's unsure the safety of anyone in those moments.
Has a mother posed any safety threats to anyone at the department or herself or potentially the child?
No, there have been no firm safety concerns regarding mom, just parenting concerns.
Okay. And does it seem that the mother or the grandmother are able to mitigate any of those safety concerns posed by the father?
It is my understanding from my own experiences and from other workers' experiences that there's reason to believe that both Jackie and her mom can become fearful of Dakota in those moments. They both seem to kind of back away. I don't think that either one of them have the ability to stand firmly and stop him from actions.
Okay, I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to ask you to refrain from talking while the witness is talking.
Apologies.
If we need to take a break, that's fine. Just let me know, Mr. McBride.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, could you repeat what you were saying?
We're concerned with both Jackie and Patty's ability to stand up to Dakota in those moments. As even workers have concerns about standing up to them in those moments, and we're trained to do so. So we feel that it would be a higher safety concern to have them in charge, so to speak, or directing him. Does not take redirection very well. It would be more of a trigger.
You noted that while mom may not pose safety concerns to the department personnel or anything like that, there are some parenting concerns. Have you been able to observe any parenting time between the parents and child?
Yes, there have been so far 2 parenting times, and then there's also one scheduled for today after our court hearing. I witnessed one parenting time. The foster care worker witnessed the other. During the parenting time that I witnessed, Jackie was caring towards her son. She would rock him in the corner, sing to him, but there is no base knowledge of changing baby's clothes, changing diapers. Dakota really takes over those tasks for her. She does make statements. An example is when the baby was wet, she said the blue line on the diaper means that it's wet. So she understands pieces, but to actually put those pieces all together to parent is still a major concern at this time.
And are there any safety concerns for the child even during parenting, or because it's supervised? So is supervision sufficient to safeguard this child from the lack of parenting abilities these parents are demonstrating?
With Jackie, yes. We do have concerns, obviously, for Dakota, primarily he's indicated that he needs the marijuana to parent, but we can't have him coming to parenting time under the influence. It's not appropriate. But during the parenting time that I was at, he brought out his marijuana pen to show the supervisor. This is what I use, this is what I do. He went into great detail about the use of gummies and how much he takes throughout the day, what it does, the use of alcohol to also treat his mental health. There are concerns that if we even started drug screening before, when redirected, again, he does not take redirection very well. He gets very angry and can get agitated. It's the safety, and we don't know what's going to happen when he's agitated.
Has he been able to demonstrate an ability to appropriately care for the child without supervision there?
Without supervision, no. We've seen nothing without supervision. At one point, he was actually 2 points. He was changing the baby's diaper and stepped away while leaving the baby on a table. He was redirected and told that that wasn't safe, that he needed to be with him the whole time. Maybe 20 minutes later, he did it again. And when redirected, he said, "I was just 2 feet away, he's fine." Those are major concerns, that you were directed once, even a few minutes later, you repeated the same process, and leaving a baby on the table is a safety concern.
At any point during his parenting time, were there other indications of his inability to care for the child, such as being unable to self-regulate?
There was a great deal of emotional irregularity. He was able, one time he did become very agitated. He was asked if he'd like to take a walk, and he declined to be able to take a walk. He did sit, and after a few minutes, he became upset. He started to cry, and then immediately we went kind of back into hypervocalization, type of manic type behavior. So the emotions swing very quickly.
During parenting time, is the content of conversations focused on the child or around creating a bond with the child?
With Jackie, it is much more focused on the child and learning, creating a bond, things of that nature. Dakota is very sporadic in his conversations. They kind of go all over the place. We will be speaking about the baby and diaper changes or formula, and then a few minutes later, we're speaking about court and the hearing, and we come back around to the hospital and the things that happened at the hospital. It is very all over the place. It's very difficult to follow.
During parenting time, if the child becomes dysregulated, what happens?
There were instances in this specific parenting time that I was in. We were informed that the baby does not at this time at placement take a binky, that it hasn't been needed, that he's been fairly calm. Dakota wanted to use a binky. They hadn't been sanitized yet, so we were unable to use the binkies that he had brought. It's not that they were incorrect, anything like that. They just hadn't been sanitized yet. And the baby was more agitated during that parenting time. He fussed quite a bit. There were good moments where they were both singing to him, things like that. But Dakota became fixated on the fact that he could not use the binky. And he wanted to feed him again, but it wasn't his feeding schedule. He had just eaten. He stated that the baby would be using the binky to control his anger.
What's a binky?
A pacifier, I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, a pacifier. That the baby would be using that to control his own anger, and so that he would not have temper tantrums.
In your opinion, is Mr. Harmon Duckworth appropriate with any of the service providers?
So far, no.
Um, is there anything else you'd like the court to know regarding potential placement with grandma while she's currently at the familial home?
While she's currently living with the parents, we do continue to feel that it wouldn't be an appropriate placement at this time. However, we're still working through the process. We're still doing the 3130A. We're continuing the entire process.
After the hearing last on the 21st, did you discover any information that might have been inconsistent with the grandmother's testimony?
Yes, I was able to speak to Social Security. We had really had that piece as to why Jackie received Social Security benefits. I was able to speak to them and discovered that Jackie is actually considered an adult disabled child, and that is what she receives Social Security benefits for. She has a diagnosis through Social Security of intellectual disability. She's currently under review for that as well. The time frame on that is up. She, during the last review, which I believe was 2019, I believe is what I was told, Patty, Jackie's mom, had provided information to the SSI reviewer or evaluator. She had also provided school documents showing the special education or IEP that Jackie had at that time. So she's not receiving benefits, death benefits from her father. She is actually receiving benefits under a disability for intellectual disability.
Did the Social Administration provide any of the information that Grandma Patty had provided during that 2019 review?
Patty stated that Jackie is not good with money, doesn't understand the concept of different dollars and coins, things like that. And she also provided the educational piece. At that time, there was also an evaluation done as to Jackie's IQ. All of this, Patty was participating in and was aware of. And at that time, that is when she was granted the payee status.
Does that information cause the department to have concern about her, Patty, Grandma, her ability to provide care for the infant?
Yeah, it goes to that thought of can we identify, understand, and report accurately? If Patty didn't seem to understand why her daughter received Social Security, it's a concern then for many other things moving forward. Does Patty understand how this process works, what the rules are specifically for this process? Can she accurately report concerns that she sees? We've seen the minimization of behaviors by her in regards to the safety of other people around Dakota, Jackie's intellectual capabilities. We've seen those things be misreported, and it causes a concern.
Thank you. With that, Your Honor, I have no further questions from Ms. Harvey.
Questions, Mr. McFarland?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks?
No.
Ms. Underwood?
Ms. Harvey, at this time, what would be your recommendation with respect to parenting time for both parents?
I would really like to see visits be suspended until we can get a psychological evaluation. They're just ongoing safety concerns. We can't have a parent presenting under the influence for parenting time, yet openly state that the only time people are safe is when he is under the influence. There are just too many safety barriers, psychological factors that I feel need to be explored before we can continue with supervised parenting.
Would Miss Lomas be appropriate for supervised parenting time without Mr. Harmon Duckworth present?
I think that that could be, I think that that would be a possibility.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Ms. Harvey, was the option of asking Dakota to step out of the home explored? And if that's, well, I guess the other question that is folded into that question is, would this child be safe if placed with mother and grandmother without Dakota in the home?
I would still have concerns as to whether they could actually, one, keep themselves safe from him if they had to redirect him, and two, keep the baby safe. And not because they didn't want to, but because they really truly are not capable of doing that. It becomes a concern, it just becomes a concern. If he does enter the home, are they able to, when told, no, you can't pick him up right now, he becomes agitated, can they continue to stand up to him, to have, you know, the capability of being firm with him? That is a major concern.
Are there any instances that demonstrate to you that that would be or is already a consistent problem in the home?
Yes. Mr. Duckworth, Harmon Duckworth, speaks for Jackie almost exclusively. She does not often do things out of her own accord. She does things after he tells her to. There was one instance where there was a provider on the phone. Jackie was attempting to speak to whom it was that had called her. He took the phone and was yelling at the person. So you see the coercive control in their relationship. Ms. Heilman also saw a bit of that in that she was having a great conversation with Patty alone when Dakota came home. He was already agitated. Grandma really shut down and really didn't want to answer specific questions. She felt very uncomfortable when he became agitated. It's a bit of a slump, not the ability to stand up and say, no, you need to not do this. She can be firm. However, I don't think she can be firm enough to keep safety, maintain safety.
Do you know why Ms. Heilman wasn't able to complete her interview with Patty?
Yes, the length of time, it was taking quite a bit of time. The parents had been at parenting time. They came home early. That Dakota coming home to that moment really did change the entire vibe of the situation. Patty didn't really feel comfortable answering questions while he was there. A lot of it just needed to be further explored. And so Jill set up a time separately again for just she and Patty to speak alone. So his presence really did hinder it, but it also is a long process. There are quite a few things, and sometimes when you've already sat through it for 2 hours, we need to just continue to explore it on a different day.
Do you know why Ms. Heilman's not able to be here today?
She's actually off today.
Okay. Has there been any information supplied about the family from their residence of origin, if you will, like where Patty has come from?
Yes, I have requested records. They have confirmed that there are some records and they'll be sending them, but they take up to 10 business days. I was able myself, just through a Google search, to find that Patty's other daughter has a significant CPS history. So the family does have history. There's a termination of 3 children. And it does not appear that in that process, Patty was the placement for any. There were 6 children originally removed. 3 were given back to their mother. 3 were
I'm
put
going to
into
object.
adoption.
How in the dickens am I supposed to parse this information that the witness got off a computer that I can't read? I can't see it. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's false. It's not hearsay. It's beyond hearsay.
That's fair, Mr. Brooks. And I think that I'll be asking follow-up questions at subsequent hearings as well, but I just want to really make sure that the department's done everything they can to find out what's happening with this family and to find out whether or not placement with grandmother could be an option. So I appreciate your objection, and I also look at the information, giving it the weight that it deserves, which is obviously qualified by the source being Google. But I am also glad to hear, frankly, that the department is looking at what they can find out about the family, I suppose, in some respects. So you're welcome to cross-examine as well, obviously.
I can also let you know what led me, like where Google led me, because that is an important piece.
All
And
right.
actually, there was an appeal to the termination. So it was actually a court document that is in a juris website. So it is pretty accurate information.
Would you be able to provide a copy of that?
Yep.
In the future?
Sure, good.
Thank you. All right, questions based on my questions, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland?
Yes, I'm trying to understand the importance of a link of mother's sister losing her parental rights. You haven't discovered anything in your documentation that says that maternal grandmother was an issue, correct?
No, what the discovery led to was that she was not a placement option for those children. That's primarily why it was.
But that has no significance because you have no idea why. It could be not enough rooms, it
Yep,
could be
correct.
distance.
Yep, we're waiting for that information to come from Washington State, yes.
Fine.
I did want to dig further into why, yes.
Okay. Now, it appears as though you're concerned with father's parenting time being suspended as him being physically in the room with the child and inappropriate, correct?
Correct.
So another option would be for him to view the child on FaceTime by Zoom, so the child can hear his voice, can still form a bond, and not be a risk of harm, physical harm to the child. That would be an alternative, wouldn't it?
Yes, if the court felt that that was the alternative, that would be fine.
Nothing further.
Mr. Brooks?
Thank you.
Ms. Underwood?
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We return to receipt. All right, any other witnesses today, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. McFarland?
Well, Your Honor, when you advised my client of his rights on the record, he also indicated that he had the right to make a statement. He would like to make a statement at this time. Would you like him to go from here, Your Honor?
I think it would be best to have him
Gotcha.
sworn and approach our witness stand.
Yeah. Raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
There's a step here, be careful.
I have a whole lot to start. Who's gonna start this off with the first?
Hey, hang on. We have to do this in a special order, okay? Number one, you did have a copy of the petition and you remember the judge reading it to you, correct? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And you also know that we have asked for a jury trial, correct?
Mhm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
They're recording everything, so they need to
Oh, okay,
hear.
so I need to state yes.
Yes, exactly.
Apologies.
Okay, so a lot of what you might say is going to be for the trial, so we might not want to let everybody know ahead of time, but you have some important comments to make, you think, today, correct?
Yep.
And these comments are going to be where you think the worker maybe misrepresented what she was saying,
I
correct?
would like to actually show off, if I can, what happens on my mental states. I can show it at any point in time and what happens when I get angry.
Well, why don't you tell us then, because that's an
So the
important.
original thing, the reason why I was originally diagnosed with homicidal and suicidal bipolar was because my dad has it. It is a genetic thing. Why do you think I was also trying to keep his fits down in case he does have any anger issues? I was pre-prepping even for my own mental health. Why I had been mentioning the pacifier to the people. I had also had a breakdown in front of the actual caseworker because of Patty. I have been attempting to get this car done for about 2 weeks now.
Car?
The car that was actually court ordered by the thing. Have not truly had help, and every time that I do, I have to either fight with her to the point where I'm yelling and screaming throughout my house, which has been the last 4 days. You can even reference to my honey for that aspect. Just yesterday, I had to have a own talk about her my own honey's medical expenses.
Well, hang on, it's just, when you were saying my honey, who are you referring
Honey
to?
used my girlfriend over in the side that is Jackie Lomas. I always use the term as my honey
Thank
or
you.
mine.
Okay,
Patty has a problem with me stating my because I go around my house just stating mine because it's how I understand what I can actually use. She doesn't understand that that is the case in
I
point.
understand. Okay,
So I have issues with that. And if you notice, this is what I was doing, showing that I was caring. I was taking my time. I was even giving the aspects. The only thing that I couldn't stop is I have a pathological need to swear at sometimes. So the worse I get, the more I swear. I stated that to them. And the only word that I was using in the court was F, the F word.
okay.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Appreciate you not using that.
Yep, that's the
Okay.
reason. Or effing, to repeat. Those were the only terminologies that I used in the actual visits. I've been repeatedly asked, but every time that I was also talking, it was also only about Patty.
Let's get back to the issue of visits. You want to be,
That was also the reason why I was so to repeat, I had also stated I was going in there on mental weed. If they had noticed at the start of my visit, when I was not having any issues, I was actually, being perfect, fine, cozy, doing everything that I needed.
and why was that? Do you know?
It's because I had taken my marijuana. I was not feeling joint pain, which is what it was prescribed for.
So do
I
you have
was
a
even-
prescription for marijuana?
I was told by my doctor to self-medicate. That is why I've been doing it for the past 5 years.
Would you be willing to sign a release? So
I-
Child Protective Services will contact your doctor and verify that. Would you? be
Yes,
okay?
I would be okay
Great.
with that. I actually had gotten, the only reason I'm even on SSI right now is because 5 years ago, I originally was trying to get my entire mental health checked because I wanted to make sure she was safe in my house, Jacqueline Lomas. Because I wasn't feeling comfortable with everybody micromanaging what I had to do. And even during those 5 years, I had Patty repeatedly come into my house and start cleaning my house without my say-so. And at that point, I had panic attacks at that point, so I had neglected my entire
Patty being whom?
Patty Lomas that is sitting back in the court right now.
Okay, that's your girlfriend's
Mother,
Okay, got it. Okay.
which I have been having these repeated same issues with her money and having to actually help her with her own money every single time. We had even attempted to change her own physical
Whose
standing.
money are we talking about?
Jacqueline's Lomas money for her own safety so that she could be her own payee. The only reason that I even became the payee is because Jackie felt more comfortable with me being the payee.
You are a payee for,
I am not a payee
Okay.
anymore. She had taken the rights over. Patty Lomas, the mother, had taken the rights back. After not even a single week of me having it.
let me ask you on visitation. If the court determines that you can't personally be there with your child, would you like to be there by FaceTime or Zoom so you can see the child and talk to the child so the child recognizes your voice?
Yes. Also, the reason why I had stated to the court, can I show it, is because I only have to say a single word and I have a seizure right then and there. That is my safety mechanism. When I get too angry, it's not the action I'm going to cut someone. That is the thought that crosses my mind, but in doing so, my first action is to physically shut down my body so that I have it. The weed acts as a stimulant. I'd even stated when I was using alcohol, the only time that I ever, and I stated this politely, ever used alcohol is when I cannot feel my legs to the point where moving. That is the only time. It is to help numb, increase blood flow, and to also increase my oxygen intake. So I'm not hyperventilating, having anxiety or aggression. And normally it takes about 1 a day just to keep me tipsy. And that is just cozy and at tipsy.
One what?
One Smirnoff, the red, white, and blues?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Is that a bottle you're talking about?
Yes,
So-
it's a literal 16 ounces.
Is that,
That's
is
about
that,
it.
is that
And I would
vodka?
only have one of those if I was even.
Yeah, I'm not, what is Smirnoff? Is that vodka?
Okay, Smirnoff is normally a combination of a usual cocktail drink. It is usually involving a high fruity
It's like a seltzer.
Yeah, it's like a seltzer
Okay,
base.
so it's not straight.
It's not even straight vodka.
Okay, got
I'm
it.
even taking minor doses for that, and I have even stated that to everyone that I
The
have.
doctor okay with that too?
That is the only thing that I have not talked with, but to repeat, I was also told to self-medicate.
Now, you've heard at least it raised that maybe you might consider moving out of the house for the child to be with your girlfriend and her mother. Your thoughts?
If I had to, the majority of my anger issues that have repeated for the last 2 weeks have only been regarding to Patty Lomas. The majority of it has been stating that same thing repeatedly to the court.
The question is,
Yes, I realize what the question is. I'm understanding the anger aspect too.
okay, I think the court heard that.
Yep.
Of course, we're gonna have our day in court on
Yeah,
the
this is the
petition.
reason why I wanted to double check everything. The first thing, the only thing that I can agree with was for on court record to actually agree with the majority of what this petition has stated, including my own mental health and the aspects that I have is that my house was not unlivable, quote unquote.
Oh, hang on, we'll get to that when it comes to the trial, okay?
Apologies.
Oh, no problem. Have we covered those important decisions regarding parenting time?
My issues right now is I would actually request as a court hearing to have Patty actually move out of my house. I need her out of my house so fast. Last night, it proved to me that I had more anger issues because she was been here, because a lot of my bills and stuff revolve around 2 checks, not just one.
Some people might say that they're concerned for her physical health. with these
Actually,
things.
the only reason that is the case is because she would not she continuously went even behind Jackie's back, called up a doctor on thing after we had been repeatedly asking her to only wait an hour when we had already called a doctor to get Jackie's prescriptions fixed. We had to go to the ER because Patty Lomas had panicked to the point of thinking she had syphilis, which did not have any case in point. Or syphilis, whatever you want to be equate.
Okay.
And then after that, we had gone to the doctor. Even the doctor was telling her she was fine in the hospital right over, didn't even give time for it, and had already pushed that aspect. I usually do the majority of my girlfriend's pills, or
Well, we're not on to those little
Okay.
things. We're just here about, I'd like to focus on the parenting time. Have we discussed everything that you want to? on
yes, for
that?
parenting time, yes. So if it is necessary for me to not be involved in those, as a case. Also, hold on, for parenting time, I had stated multiple times on the aspect of just light minor reminders for Honey, because I know she forgets at times. She gets panicked and then has her issue, which is she just overly nitpicks at certain aspects, just like I do.
What triggers you?
So I have 3 different things. One, if you are not, when I have already specifically asked you of a task, the only task that I have actually asked of Patty to even come down here and had specifically stated to her not to come down here if she was sick, which when she had found out that the actual.
Oh, we understand that. What's the second?
Yep, apologies. I had a whole bunch of things lined up, and this is just the first of the things. Very many.
What's the second trigger?
The second trigger, like I have stated, I actually will have a seizure. I can't state it on record because I had a issue when I was younger with a past ex. Why I have so many tendencies. I've been lied for 2 years.
What's the third then, if you can't mention the second?
So the third one, I honestly have issues with cleaning my house because my body does not work normally at certain times, which means that's why I'm taking the marijuana.
Okay. Let me ask you this. If the court were to order you out of your house, I have no idea what the court's gonna do. Okay?
Yep.
But if the court were to order you out,
I would not have a place to stay. I would specifically ask for Patty to be moved out.
but if the court ordered you out, would you be out?
I would have to be out if that was the case.
I don't know what the court's gonna do, so I'm just asking every scenario. You understand?
Yep. And if you notice, this is without weed. This is why I'm showing this to the court. This is without any docile nature
So this is your worst case scenario.
This
what
is
we're
my
seeing.
worst case scenario. This is why I came here specifically to show the court what was actually happening.
Okay.
Also, when that knife was even mentioned, I had the back of the blade hidden like this so that I wouldn't actually hit my foot, or to actually, knife etiquette states that you hold the blade to the back of your wrist to make sure that anyone that is in any state or actual has issues has to hold it correctly this way. I had even stated it and showed it to her and had shown her the issue of if someone is in a threatening motion. I had even shown her the issue when a blade is actually raised out and held down to the side. That is normally an action of aggression. Well, the way that I was holding it was an action that I didn't even want to get near you. There was a box behind her for the car seat, which is why I had grabbed a knife. I hadn't stated anything, had just taken my weed and went over and was on my task and doing stuff around my house.
So basically, you're not aggressive when you have your weed.
When I have my weed, I am very docile, to the point that it is the case. The only time that I am not docile when is there a problem.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I'll see if any other attorneys have questions for you, okay?
Yes, please.
Ms. Thomas.
Thank you. Mr. Hammond Duckworth, when was the last time that you used marijuana?
Literally just yesterday. I specifically had taken a 200 milligram and a single hit yesterday to guarantee that I would be safe and happy and healthy for everything, including if I was having a panic attack. So I calmed down multiple times during the actual issue yesterday.
Okay. And what is your child's name?
Silas Lomas, Syelus.
Okay. And do you think that you're appropriate during parenting time? Do you think that you pose a risk of harm to him?
Honestly, yes. I was actually explaining to an actual social worker what my issues that I have been dealing with, and that is also including the car aspect, that I've repeatedly kept having to say to Patty Lomas almost every single day, which has caused her not to feel safe in my house like she has recommended. And I have only asked
Mr. Hammond Duckworth,
repeatedly.
I'm just going to re-ask my question. Do you feel that you are safe to your son during parenting time?
Oh, yes. Actually, I was more safe than what I was realizing. The only 2 times I was actually going and.
Your Honor, I'm just gonna say my client has answered. She asked if we felt safe.
Okay,
He said
sorry.
yes. So
Apologies, I don't know how much you
Mr.
want.
McFarland, if he wants to continue answering the question, I can appreciate your concern on his behalf, but if he wants to explain that, I think as far as it relates to parenting time, it's very relevant, and I would like him to be able to do that.
Thank you.
So the first parenting time, the reason why I had come in so distraught for the second one was because the first one I had found out the infamil that they were serving him, and not even taking my response of saying that Similac was supposed to be given to the child. Specifically, I had brought an entire case of a 40-pack of bottles of Similac to my first hearing. That was to make sure that I had everything. I had even washed bottles specifically that were already stated for that. And I'm still having that used against me in court, which is another reason why I feel like I have to state this. And I realize I am overstepping my bounds, and my attorney has already told me to stop. But I feel like I have to say this, because if I don't, it's going to eat away at me for next week. I'm trying to repeat. The majority of this petition, I could state that half of this is wrong, including the even aspect of me actually going in multiple times to check my own girlfriend to get her health. This is why I said that I wanted to be last time here.
Okay.
The majority of this petition was wrong.
Okay. Your Honor, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Brooks?
Sir, are you having a panic attack right now?
Because so the other reason why I have these issues is I remember everything. That means every aspect, every even issue. I normally just start crying. And then I get worse and worse. And then I snap, which at that time it takes, the last time that me and my honey originally had an argument, it lasted over 5 hours. And that was me asking if she's okay, or if there's anything that I can do for her. Sometimes she doesn't even understand her own body, which is why we go through the health mechanisms that we normally do. You know what doctors do. Are you experiencing 0 from 10 pain? We go through that thing. And if she's experiencing any pain that is over the 6th limit, I normally call an ER visit to guarantee that everything is happy, healthy, and safe in my house. And that even includes if I feel if I'm being too aggressive. Sometimes that is even to the case of that point, if I'm being too aggressive, I will make sure that she is actually getting her mental health checked at the hospital, and we will take a night at that time.
Sir, my question was, right now at 10 minutes to 12 today, are you having a panic?
So right now would be equating to a panic attack. This is my minor first stage. My second stage is usually I need stuff done. It is no other option. Patty has pushed me to the point where I've had no fucking point to use my second stage normally. And that has happened at least 6 times this week. And it has been over her own daughter's health. I literally had an argument yesterday about making a bed. And all it was moved was 2 inches.
I have no further questions, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Underwood, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Judge.
Any redirect, Mr. McFarland?
No, thank you.
Recross?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you for your testimony. You may return to your
Thank
seat. Any other witnesses, Mr. McFarland?
No, thank you. Watch your head, please.
Mr. Brooks?
I'm finding out right now. Do you want to get on the stand or no?
If you want me to.
Well, you just tell me if you showed me all that stuff and I'm just wondering if you want to tell the court about that.
You can do whatever you want. It's not me. Do not look for, if you notice, that's also a care method that we use. Sorry.
Sure.
You don't sound sure.
I'm not sure.
No, we do not have anything to say.
Any witnesses you'd like me to hear from, Ms. Underwood?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Well. All right. More comments in closing, Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, we would just ask the court to make the findings that reasonable, if actually active efforts have been made for this family to continue to assist in the reunification process and to help the family, I guess, with placement, have the most family-like placement for this child. It does not seem that that is an appropriate placement. We are asking the court to continue placement with the department and allowing the child to remain in the licensed foster care home. Based on the testimony we've heard today, there seems to be a clear concern about the safety and well-being of all of the adults in this matter, which would clearly imply a substantial and imminent risk of harm to the child. We are asking the court to suspend parenting time as relates to father, pending further psychological evaluation to understand how he could possibly interact with his child in a safe manner. I think that his behavior also poses a substantial risk of harm to the service providers that are involved in assisting this family. And I believe that that is unreasonable to ask them to continue to place themselves at such risks where there have to be safety plans to the extent that they are implemented right now. We are asking the court to continue. And also as it relates to Mr. McFarland's insinuating that perhaps online or video call parenting time could happen. I would also like to point the court back to the testimony of, and even father's own testimony of the inappropriate language use, the scattered dialogue and the inability to really focus on the child in and of himself. And for those reasons, we are just requesting a full out suspension of parenting time. As relates to mother, we would request continued supervised parenting time as policy requires. And with that, we would ask the court to continue the authorization of the petition pending the trials. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland?
Your Honor, I don't recall there being any testimony that my client spoke inappropriately to the minor child, raised his voice to the minor child, threatened the minor child. So I don't know how we can extrapolate that by him doing a remote contact by Zoom, which no worker should be involved in, which could be immediately shut off from the other side, why the child couldn't hear his voice. It appears as though he's demonstrated appropriate vocal conduct in front of the child. So that's what we're asking, and we're still requesting the jury trial.
Mr. Brooks?
I can see, listening to this man testify, how the caseworkers could either A, confuse or deliberately distort what they perceive as his threat. He knows he has issues mentally. How often are we in here and people don't even acknowledge they have them? It's every week, and they don't know that there are issues. He knows. He does. Maybe it's not the politically correct thing to do, but he knows how to mitigate those issues so that he can be more appropriate. Now, I don't know what this diagnosis said about him being homicidal or suicide. I haven't seen it.
That's why I
But
was.
don't help me.
No, you're good, sponsors.
Thank you. But he knows, he is aware, he wants to control it. He is controlling it. You don't approve of it, maybe the workers don't want to work, but it works. Self-medication in this case has an ameliorating effect on his behavior. Now, with respect to mom, I don't hear anybody saying she can't go to visitation. I don't see any reason why he can't go. I mean, if push comes to shove, they can always terminate the visitations, but I don't think he's expressed, I think he's been very candid with us. I didn't hear him say he was ever feeling like he had threatening motivations towards a caseworker, threatening motivations towards a supervisor for visitations, none of it. And he went on in quite a bit of detail about his status and where he's at emotionally. No, I don't see it. I just see he's different. I think he knows he's different, but that doesn't mean he can't visit with his child. And I'm opposed to any kind of limitation short of this. I agree with the need for supervision. I agree with that. But that's as far as I'm willing to go. Other than that, I don't see what the issue is. If it gets worse, I mean, we all know it. The DHS has got the ability instantaneously to terminate visitation and to ask this court to continue the termination. Have they said he harmed the child? No. Have they said he's a little is he negligent about that? The tabletop thing is a bad thing. You can't do it.
Yep.
But he learns, he listens. No. He should be allowed, my client should be allowed supervised visitation with their child. As for bad language in front of the child, come on. How old's this child? A week old, 2 weeks old?
They were even stating, sorry.
All right. That's just ludicrous. That child hasn't got a clue on earth what's being said. I don't know if even a child can hear well at the age he's at. Probably not. But no, he's too easy a target. But none of it points to him being a threat to anybody. I suspect if he was a threat, he is aware enough, he would know he's escalating. And he'd go outside, he'd take some marijuana, and okay, nobody likes it. too bad, but he's not threatening anybody, and he should be allowed to visit with his child. Thank you.
Ms. Underwood.
Sorry, that was more about Crosby.
Your Honor, I am more in line with Ms. Thomas and her recommendations. And after hearing testimony from Mr. Harmon Duckworth, I am absolutely concerned with the safety of the workers and the caregivers. He indicated and displayed that he did carry a knife around, and while his explanation may seem appropriate to him or to others, why in the world would you display how to carry a knife and what you would do with it if you're going to be threatening to a caseworker? That would be very concerning, and I would myself have felt very unsafe in that circumstance. As for his behavior at the visits, I also agree that that's inappropriate, and his parenting time should be suspended. He testified that he has to be high or tipsy, I think he said, in order to be calm. Yet if you're high and tipsy, yes, you're calm, but then no, you can't parent your child. So it's a vicious cycle. I agree that a psychological evaluation needs to occur, and hopefully we can make some headway on appropriate treatment for Mr. Harmon Duckworth so that he can have parenting time with his child in the future. However, I believe that the other attorneys, with except for Ms. Thomas, are minimizing the behaviors that have been testified to by Ms. Harvey and by Mr. Harmon Duckworth himself. I disagree that he knows his limits. Clearly, we're here for a reason, and he's even testified that he can't keep the home clean, which is one of the reasons why the petition was even filed. So I believe that there is significant safety concerns both for the minor child as well as the caseworkers, as well as Ms. Lomas and her mother. And so for those reasons, I believe that placement with the department is still appropriate for the minor child. I would recommend that all parenting time for dad be suspended pending further investigation and further psych evals, and that parenting time for the mom be supervised without Mr. Harmon Duckworth present. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So the court finds that all interested parties were given notice for purposes of the continuation of today's preliminary hearing. I do want to confirm that I think that the reasons for the removal continue to be they continue to create a reasonable risk of, or an unreasonable risk of harm associated with allowing Sileas to be in the care of either parent at this time. We've heard Mr. Dakota Harmon Duckworth confirm himself that he has some pretty significant diagnoses and some very some triggers that put him on edge on a regular basis, that he self-medicates with very high levels of marijuana in order to try to control some of those impulses that he has, and even when he is self-medicated, that he has some trouble controlling those impulses. That was demonstrated by his actions around Ms. Jill Harmon during the time that she was at the home. And again, Dakota himself confirmed that he did bring a knife into the room where she was at, demonstrated that he was using it in a safe and knew how to use it in an unsafe way. None of that is appropriate or necessary during a visit. There's no reason at all that there should be a knife brought into the room while a CPS person is there for any other reason other than to intimidate that particular worker. He's admitted to us that he has triggers as when he has to ask someone to do something more than one time, that his mother-in-law has taken him to what he referred to as, I think, level 2 over 6 times in the last week, including at one point over the fact that she had made a bed and moved it several inches over. We have the indications that Jill Heilman was in the process of interviewing the mother, the grandmother, and that the grandmother shut down and was unable to complete the interview because when Dakota arrived back at the home, she stopped talking. So there are a lot of indications that the home where these two parents are residing is not safe. And I would go as far as to say that it may not be safe for the grandmother and the mother at this time. And I think Dakota Harmon Duckworth is doing the best he can under the circumstances with this diagnosis to mitigate these risks. And I'm hoping that voluntary or involuntarily, he's able to access some additional services through the department to help control some of those impulses and alleviate the risk of harm associated with his diagnosis that he shared with us today. In the meantime, I will ask the department to look at those potential resources for him, to look at a psychological evaluation for him. I know that there are some good resources over at Adrian Psychiatric and Counseling, and you have your own resources as well. But we need obviously someone who is capable of looking at Mr. Harmon Duckworth's psychology and psychiatry needs, and look at how we can help support him to be safe around himself and the people that he cares about. He's able to do that voluntarily prior to pretrial and trial, of course, and we'll ask him to do that in order to make sure that he's safe during parenting time. In the meantime, I will allow him to have the virtual parenting time. I think that's a good suggestion by Mr. McFarland, and we'll ask the department to do a family team meeting to arrange some time where he's able to do some virtual parenting time with his child, virtual supervised parenting time, pending pretrial and trial, and I'll look for an update on that time at pretrial. I will also allow Ms. Jacqueline Lomas to exercise supervised parenting time. That will have to be done at the department, and arrangements made also during an FDM, if that's going to be outside the department, to ensure that Mr. Dakota is able to not be part of that particular time. And there will be obviously some need to plan around that in order to make sure that he's able to be supported in curbing his impulses if he has frustrations around that point. So I won't be asking our service providers to do that in a vacuum. I'll ask you to try to arrange that parenting time either at the department or in a public place so that you have the resources you need to keep the situation safe and civil for everyone. All right, so that's what's going to be happening with parenting time moving forward. I'll ask the department to continue to investigate the maternal grandmother replacement as they have indicated they will. To continue that home investigation, to submit the results of any BIA inquiry, to supply that AOP or any other proof of legal parentage. That's something we have to tie up before we come back and proceed further as it relates to adjudication. Our final pretrial will be September 16th at 11 a.m. Jury instructions, voir dire questions, and jury verdict forms are due at or before that final pretrial. Witness and exhibit list should also be filed and exchanged prior to or at that pretrial. Of course, it includes marking your potential exhibits and exchanging those between parties so that everyone can be prepared for jury trial, which will be conducted on October 11th, 2024, commencing at 8:30 in the morning.
Your Honor, if
Yes.
I might, I plan to be out on October 11th. And that Monday following, so I'll be back to Tuesday following the 11th. Be back on the 15th.
All right, would you be able to support Wednesday, October 16th? I have Wednesday or I have Friday, actually. The 18th,
October, correct, Your Honor?
October 16th or October 18th?
Either for me. Just double check to make sure I don't have anything in another.
We can actually even go Monday, October 21st, if that works better for everybody.
Fine by me.
16th is fine, 18th is fine, 21st is fine.
Your Honor, because it's a jury trial, I think I'd rather have it on a Monday in case we have to carry over another day. That may be more appropriate.
We have, well, if we did the 16th, we could carry it over to the 17th.
That's fine too. So that's just my concern. I don't want to break for a weekend.
Let's go with Wednesday, October 16th, understanding that if we do need to ask the jury to rejoin us Thursday morning, then obviously we'd be open for business. So for continuity, I appreciate that, Mr. McFarland. I agree that we should be able to have some time where it still remains fresh for everyone. So let's schedule it for October 16th. Again, commencing at 8:30. And I'll make changes on my calendar accordingly. And look for those updates as articulated previously at our pre-trial.
Judge, I'm sorry, when was the pretrial again?
September 16th at 11 a.m.
Thank you.
What's that pretrial date again? Pretrial one more time, September 16th at 11 a.m. Jury trial, October 16th at 8:30. I've issued my findings as it relates to placement. I think that the child is in the safest and least restrictive circumstances pending further developments and the homework list that I've given the department. And unless there's any questions, that's all for today.
Should my client wait out in the hall for the order for the times?
Sure.